Hello everyone, this is Kathy from the Daily Marker. How are you today? It's day 3 of the 30-day coloring challenge, and I want to show you how I created this card from, well, the card's by me, but the stamps from Colorado Craft Company. They just have a brand new release. They came out with these awesome 3 new large animals. They're super cool. And I inked them all up. I love this llama, and I put the glasses on it. I did the giraffe, but I decided I'm going to paint the elephant today. So I'm going to show you my process, and I'll probably color the other 2 animals sometime during my coloring challenge this month. So this is the elephant. He's so cool, and I'm stamping the flower on this perfume bottle on top of the ear, kind of like a tattoo. I inked up the elephant with Gina K Designs Warm Glow Amalgam ink, and I'm darkening that eye so I can see it. I'm masking the elephant off because I want to stamp that floral, and here you have it. I masked it off with some 3M Post-it tape, and now I'm going to do the background. So I'm wetting the area first on my watercolor paper. I'm using Arches 110 bright white, and then I have a Caron brush marker. I'm just dropping that color in. I like to get that intense line of color, and then I'll use my brush to smooth that out. Sometimes you get a line, so then I'll just scribble on my watercolor mat from Waffle Flowers, a little plug there for them. And then I'm just pulling that color down. I wanted more intense color around the elephant and then just kind of washing it out. I'm going to speed this up and doing the same thing. I kind of work in sections until the background is done. Super easy, but it makes a big difference. It really makes it stand out. And then if I'm in a rush, I'll heat set it or I'll go do something else and come back when it's dry. And then I like to drop in a little bit more color in certain areas just for some interest. Don't overthink where you're dropping that color, just do it. It always works out. Usually it's in the nooks and crannies, but it doesn't have to be. So what else did I want to tell you? Now, my craft room is a big window, so the light's going to be changing, and that's just how it goes. I apologize. Now I'm just wetting this area. I use dirty water all the time. My water's tainted with blue, but it just gives my watercoloring more interest anyway, kind of like a lazy crafter. So now that the elephant's head is wet, I put that line of color, and now I'm softening that line with the scribble color on my mat. And I'm just going to be going back and forth doing the same thing. I'm going to be skipping my brush around the elephant's face. I'm just dropping color in any which way. This is a nice and large stamp, so I'm working a little bit faster and just kind of scribbling my brush around. You can see there on the bottom. And I'll be adding more color later. This is just kind of like an underpinning. It'll give me interest later. I'll be going back and darkening up some areas, and that's what really will make this pop. The first layer never does. It's always the devil's in the details, so they say. Now, you can see I'm just kind of doing lines and then adding the tip to the paper as well, and just playing around, not overthinking anything, just getting more color on there. I want to make it a little darker around his eye. Again, not overthinking it. Watercoloring can be very forgiving, but I suggest, like, after this first layer, dry it and then add more color. That way it won't get muddy looking. So now and this whole video was like an hour and a half, and to chisel it down into 15 minutes is time consuming, but well worth it. I would much rather you be practicing than watching me for an hour. Okay, so now I'm just putting more color in on that other part of the stem, and I'm just kind of brushing my brush, taking my brush and doing like lines of color. And I missed this little area in here by the trunk. Now that this is closer, you can see where that intense line is from the marker. And that's one of the things I love about using a marker. It's just like, bang, you got that intense line, and then you can always soften it. So you can see, got my sun going here. It keeps changing on me. So right now, there's lines in the stamp, which is fantastic. It gives you a guide. So I'm using those lines as a guide. I'm doing like a little triangle of color, and then I'm using a wet brush just to soften that. But I do want to accent the lines just for more interest, and elephants are all kind of all wrinkly and everything. But again, enjoy the process. Don't overthink it. Layers of color. If you're tired of watercoloring, you can add colored pencil to it. Usually I always do that, but I will be doing that on the tusks and the flower at the very end. So now I'm adding another, my paper was dry, and I'm adding another layer of color to the top of his head, and just getting it on there any which way. I'm kind of picking my paper up so, because this light sun is in my eyes. And then I want to take the water and just kind of wash it all the way down so I don't get a line of color. I'm picking up some of that ink from the marker on my mat and bringing lines of color on that trunk again. And it's these little things that take the longest but make the biggest difference. I've gotten some DMs from some of you guys on Instagram, and this is what makes the difference. And I know some people don't have the patience, like I don't have patience for other things, but if you force yourself to do these little things, you'll see a big difference in your coloring or watercoloring. So I'm adding more color here with just some lines of color, more intense color. And I'll just keep on doing that. Now I didn't look at an elephant for reference. I just kind of went for it. So that when I do the tusks, they're going to be more yellow. I just thought it was more interesting. So you'll see how that goes. Okay, so while I finish this up, I'm adding these lines of color. You can see that I'm picking the color up from my mat. I'm using two of the different gray markers from the Karen. You do not need all the markers if you're thinking you want to try these markers. I really do love them. So let me just say, in case you don't know, we just started my 15th 30-day coloring challenge. It's so exciting. I love seeing everyone come together from all around the world just to color for the love of coloring. Anybody can join. You can color anything, pages from a coloring book, your own sketches, stamped images, tennis shoes, rocks. I mean, over the several different challenges, there's been all kinds of things colored, and you can share in my blog or Instagram. Tag me. There's a hashtag, the Daily Marker 30 Day, but all the information's on my blog and the links for these products and everything. But what I love about these animals is they're big. It makes it easier for the color to move on the paper. So I've moved on to the tusks here, and I'm using a brown, and I'm spreading that and adding another intense line of color. And again, there's lines on the tusks to kind of guide you. I'm kind of breaking the one up into two sections. I love taking the marker and just adding it directly on there to get a little bit more intense color. So super, super simple. And then I want to add, I'm going to make this, well, obviously a female elephant because she's got that flower tattoo on her ear. maybe we shouldn't call it a tattoo. Let's just call it painting. Because elephants are beautiful creatures. I wouldn't want to think of anyone tattooing them. Okay, so since she's got that beautiful flower on her ear, I want to give her a little bit of eyeshadow and some blush. So I'll be doing that in a few minutes. I'm just finishing up this tusk here. And then normally when I bring in color for the cheeks, I like to do it from the edge, like of a face. But I have to do a little circle, which I normally don't like doing. Now, I've got bags under my eyes, so I feel like the elephant should as well. So I always kind of like to do a little darker area under the eyes, and then some blue eyeshadow, of course. Super fun. And then I'm just doing that circle to drop in a little bit of soft pink from another marker, and just moving that around. And once this dries, I'll add a little bit of colored pencil to that, just for a little bit of warmth. You always need just one more color, just for a little bit of warmth. Now, a month or two ago, I did a class for online card classes where I'm really deep diving into my top 10 coloring tips. I'm explaining what I do all the time, over and over. So I'm doing some watercoloring here. I'm using one color on the petals. I'm dropping the color in, and then I'm removing the color from my brush. That way I have a gradient color on each petal, or the majority of the petals. I just want to leave like a lighter area. It pleases the eye, and it looks like I know where the light's coming from, but I don't pay attention to where the light's coming from. It's just too much thinking. I just want a color. So when you have that lighter area and the darker area, it looks, you're kind of fooling the eye. So I'm going to finish these petals, and then on the green leaves, I'm going to add a little bit of darker color just at the base of each leaf, the green leaf. Now, before I started coloring my purple flower, I just put a layer of green on the leaves so I knew where they were right off the bat, and I didn't have to think too much, where's the leaf, where's the petal. It just kind of took the guesswork out of that. And sometimes if you don't even want that green, you could just make the leaf a petal by painting it purple, of course. So I'm just finishing these little areas with some red. I'm going to drop a little bit of red in the petals on the purple flower, and then I'll add that darker green. So later when this flower is dry, I'm going to add some white pencil to the tips of these purple petals. It's kind of like a tongue twister, purple petals. And that'll just give me a little bit more white because the purple's pretty dark and the elephant's dark, so I kind of felt like I need a little bit more. So right here you can see I'm dropping in that darker green. I'm removing the color from my brush, and then I'm just pulling that green down a little bit. Super easy. This is the way I watercolor all the time. And just dropping it in there in that little nook and cranny. And then I have a clean brush with water, and then I'll remove the color and then just smooth it out. Super simple. Now, I just want to add a little bit more gray. So I just kind of wet that whole area so that I don't get any lines of color. And then just kind of skipping around for a little bit more interest near his trunk and working on that eye area a little bit. now that everything is dry. And then I'm just pulling that down through the cheek and everything so I don't get that line of color. So here I am, everything's dry, and I'm just adding some white pencil with a very sharp tip, or else this won't work well, on just some of the petals. And I'm using my finger just to smooth it a little bit. You don't need to, but I am. Normally I like to use a white gel pen, but I need to get another one. So the white pencil works well, especially because it's really dark purple. There goes my phone. So I want to say thank you all that are doing the 30-day coloring challenge. It's so inspiring to wake up every day and see what you guys have done during the night and what you're doing during the day. It is a little bit of a challenge to keep up with, but it's a challenge that I love. So here I have a pink pencil, and I'm just doing ever so lightly. I'm skimming the paper. Sorry for my little stray hairs there. I just skim the paper on the cheeks, and then I'm doing a little bit of pink on the tusks just because, why not? Just for a little interest. And then I'm holding my pencil almost horizontally to my paper and just skimming it so that the texture in the paper picks up the pigment from the pencil. And then I'm going to add, I'm just dancing around my image, adding a little white here and there. I added some on the hearts. I stamped the sentiment and added some white, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.